one of the last slots for today and for the whole event. And before we start, I just want to present the keynote, not me, but I want to present the presenter of the keynote, Space Economy by Thomas Tange from SpaceTech Partners.
Thank you very much. So basically, we've had a bit of space over the last 3 years, last 3 days, sorry, because space is a tech area that is becoming very important. And so I'm really pleased to talk a little bit more to you about space. We had a space panel with a space agency investor on Monday. We played with space data yesterday if you joined the workshop. And today we have more space pitches, but I will tell you a little bit more about the space economy before those. Because most people probably think about space, they think about something like this. A space shuttle, this is Space Shuttle Atlantis. It's the last space shuttle that flew in 2011, had 33 missions. But the space shuttle was very expensive. It was also delayed, the program. It was very expensive. It was meant to be reusable, to become cheaper, but that didn't happen. And one of the reasons was that basically this was built to government specs. Looks very pretty, looks very nice, but terribly expensive. And you might have heard that SpaceX launched this rocket. It's called Starship. It's the largest rocket ever built. It's bigger than the rocket that brought us to the moon. And what's special about it is it's funded by private money. So it's not funded by the government in its entirety. Its engines were developed by the government previously, but the assembly of this rocket was done by private money. The launch failed. Nevertheless, SpaceX doesn't call it a failure. They say they learned a lot, and their next launcher, which is already almost ready, will launch as soon as they found the anomaly. The big difference with this is it's much cheaper, it's reusable as well, but it will be much cheaper and faster to produce. And what this is called is basically new space. That means that the space shuttle you saw is called old space. This is called new space. And new space is basically private industry tackling space problems themselves and doing so possibly a little bit more efficiently than governments. This is a picture of Wroclaw. It was a bit cloudy the last day, so this picture is 2 or 3 weeks old. I had hoped to show you a picture of yesterday. The airport is not on there, but the airport is called Copernicus, and that is also what this Earth observation program is called like. The satellite that made this picture costs about 200 million, and you see the resolution is not terribly great, but the pictures are extremely accurate, so you can get a lot of data out of these pictures. It's not just a pretty picture. You can get a lot of information about crop fields, for example, out of this picture. Now, this is again old space, and if we look at what this looks like with new space, this is done with new space. The price of this satellite is not public. I'd say it's at least 10 times cheaper, and it's a picture made by the company Planet. You see the resolution is very much higher. You see the ships here. You wouldn't see that so sharply with the expensive satellite I showed you before. And so Planet is again an example of a private company doing space. So it sounds like I'm arguing against governments doing space. You'll see later that that's actually not really true. Now, if you look at the space economy, because why do we see startups active in this industry? You basically see that the space industry is growing. It's been growing fast. It's growing faster than the average GDP growth, so that's interesting for investors. Secondly, you see that government budgets in space go up, despite having some years of financial crises. Space budgets have always been going up. But actually the commercial sector, and that's the picture that you see on the bottom right there, is a commercial part of space, and the commercial part of space is actually the part that is growing the fastest. And you also see on this picture that it's not the satellites and the rockets that make money. That's like this little gray stuff at the bottom. It's actually the use of space data that is making money, and that is making money much more than actually selling rockets and satellites. So I think the companies you will see today, they focus very much on how you can use space technology, space data, and very early applications, because that's where you can make a lot of money. Now, startups means there's investors, well, hopefully. And traditionally, the investment in space took, to develop a space technology, space product, that takes like, 10, 15 years. And that's like this investment period that you see, and the return is negative. You need to invest in the R&D. However, the return is also fairly secure, because it takes a lot of time to invest in space. So, you don't have that much competition. So your product is also much longer exploitable, 10 to 15 years, and then of course you get competed out of the market if you don't innovate. And then when we look at ICT or tech, you can build an MVP in less than a year, in a couple of months even. So the investment period is much longer, but also the return period is much shorter. Sorry. Why? Because if you don't innovate, companies compete you out of the market really quick. But this is investable by investors. Now, I mentioned you have old space, you have new space. Old space was this 10 to 15 this 10 to 15 years. Somebody's mic is on, I think. Okay, it's 10 to 15. Sorry. So it's 10 to 15 years. And what we see is with new space, we basically go towards this general tech curve. So space becomes investable because traditional space, which used to take long, doesn't take so long anymore. You can develop a CubeSat. You can make a CubeSat in serial production even in 2-3 months, which is really fast. It's very complicated, but you can build it in 2-3 months. And so basically that has enabled that space becomes investable, that space becomes accessible to startups. So we see startups building satellites, we see startups launching into space, because so the launchers have become much cheaper. And so the reasons why satellites are cheaper are they're smaller. It's like your mobile phone. It's much smaller than a big computer, a big desktop computer 10 years ago, and it can do much more. You have advances in manufacturing. You can 3D print metals. So you can basically 3D print a rocket nozzle, a rocket engine. You can use commercial off-the-shelf components. You can just literally buy the components to build a CubeSat in a web shop. I'm not kidding. It's much more software driven. So your satellite is not, everything is hard-coded in the firmware of the hardware and you can't change it. Satellites become flexible. So they have much more software, so you can reprogram them, you can send them to a different region, have them do a slightly different task in a slightly different RF spectrum. And then on the use of the data, space data is the 5th largest data source in the world. Doing something useful with that is very hard because it's just too much data. And so basically big data, artificial intelligence help exploiting this data and do something useful with it. So basically that means that we see investors invest in the space sector. I show you only positive numbers today because I want to promote space. Risk capital or VC money has gone up dramatically. You see general tech VCs investing in space. So it's not that it's just like, focused space VCs, deep tech VCs that invest. It's also normal VCs that are investing in space. You see sovereign wealth funds. Why? Space is very strategically. So, governments or the funds of the governments also want to chip in. That's generally good news. And we see basically space companies IPOing through SPACs, through real IPOs, and that's a signal, that the capital market is interested in space companies, and that's good for entrepreneurs. So, where's space going to go next? Well, if we look at where space has been coming from, we went to space. We had the first satellite launched in the 50s, Sputnik. Then we went to the moon in the 60s. We explored space, not just our own planet, but we went to other planets. We've gone really far in space. Voyager is outside of our solar system already, so we're not just staying in our solar system, we're going beyond. And we're, at the moment, democratizing space. That means startups can do space. But where are we going next? If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to think about what's next in 5, 10 years, not what's next or what is hot today. Well, we go back to the moon, but we go back to the moon with commercial applications. We want to build a moon village. We want to have a hotel around Earth, circling Earth, low Earth orbit. We want to go to Mars eventually. And we want to go to asteroids. Why do we want to go asteroids? Well, asteroids have a lot of rare metals. So some of these asteroids are worth a terrible amount of money. And so companies want to go there, mine the asteroids, and bring the metals back to Earth. So there's a lot of opportunities here on Earth, first and foremost. In the future, maybe some more of the futuristic stuff. You wouldn't believe it, but this is areas where startups are actually driving innovation and where startups can really make a difference. I'm Thomas Tange, I'm with SpaceTech Partners. If you have any question about space, do reach out to me, and I think now we will actually hear about space entrepreneurs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yes, as Thomas just presented and put, we will now hear from the space entrepreneurs. And we have 3 startups lined up in this slot. The first one is Orbify, and we have the presenter here. The rules of the pitching competition are pretty simple: 3 minutes for the pitch and 4 minutes for the questions from the judges. You'll have 7 minutes in total. Please check your time. You have the timer there, you have the clicker, the microphone, and good luck.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. How do I use the clicker? Yes. Okay. Do you know what foresters, fishers, farmers, and fund managers have in common? Well, in order to be effective, all of them need to monitor natural assets, resources that they protect, process, plant, or trade. Unfortunately, today's solutions are colossally complex or strikingly shaky or immensely imprecise or excessively expensive. Simply put, they don't do a good job. This is why at Orbify we have decided to combine the best public and commercial data providers, providers of satellite imagery, with top-notch satellite AI and machine learning models processing this data into ready-to-use insights and state-of-the-art visualization techniques that transform these insights into something that can be understood by non-technical stakeholders, decision makers, and executives that don't have PhD in geophysics. And the best part is that we are hiding any complexity under a simple and neat web interface that is as easy to use as Canva. This way, we are making Earth observation truly accessible to everyone. This way, we are democratizing access to Earth intelligence in 4 easy steps. First of all, select the area you are interested in, then decide what parameters are relevant to your business, or simply go ahead with those selected by our AI, then browse the reports, charts, tables, and graphs that are generated for you, and then decide how you best plug it into your business workflow. Our platform has been publicly, commercially launched earlier this year in February, and since then we've been seeing really impressive usage increase, and more importantly, a growing number of companies that are paying to use our platform to design and operate their climate positive projects. Therefore, if you would like to join our mission and make space more useful for better decisions down on Earth, if you would like to see your name or logo on this slide, let's talk. My name is Jakub Dziwisz and I'm the CEO of Orbify Inc. Thank you.
Probably the first question is about market. Can you tell more about the market size? Because, you know, probably it's like, can be tricky.
Yeah, well, it all depends how you look at it, but one thing I can tell you is that geospatial analytics, and we are a part of geospatial analytics, is today worth 60 billion euro. So it's already considerable market. And then in geospatial analytics, as Thomas mentioned, there is, of course, military intelligence, right? An area that we are not really into. This is like half of the space. But then the other half is civilian applications, and nature monitoring, environment monitoring is like 10% of the entire pie, which is 6 billion euro. So I would say that this is where we are operating without any sort of pivot, 6 billion euro.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question. You said that other solutions are expensive. So could you compare your solution in terms of price, for example, and how you achieved the cheaper price for your product?
Sure. So, for example, if we are thinking about competitive solutions, then you've got ArcGIS by Esri. And Esri is a company bringing $1.2 billion every year. So back to your question about size of the industry, right? There is a behemoth like Esri. And then it's only part of the cost, right? The tool is only part of the cost, because if you want to use Esri, you need to undergo multiple trainings. If you are an enterprise, you need to hire consultants. So actually, you need to invest in much more than just tools. Our solution is easy to use. It's something that can be used by people that don't have PhD in geophysics. So this is bringing the costs down. How we are doing? Well, our team has diverse experience. We are not only people who have been building satellites in the kindergarten. Actually, I've got a background in travel tech, e-commerce, so B2C. So my background is very much about making technology accessible to ordinary people, and this is what is very important for us. So this is why with Orbify, starting from 250 euro a month, you can start monitoring your natural assets. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, partially.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Both commercial giants like Maxar and Planet and the public sector are offering services for nature-based solutions. How is yours innovative against these vertical integrations?
So there is a couple of aspects here, and first aspect is that our machine learning models are, for example, increasing Sentinel-2 resolution by 16 times, right? So Thomas was showing to us an image in 10-meter resolution. On Orbify, you can see your imagery upscaled by AI up to 2.5 meters. So this is one thing. The AI, right, that stands behind. The same goes about distinguishing forests from non-forest land cover. Here, actually, we are performing better than Google Dynamic World, and our accuracy is by 20% higher than what Google has developed. Also has a higher spatial resolution because, well, if you think about, for example, Korean land cover. It's super nice, super precise, but once every couple of years. While with Orbify, you can see how your crops areas are developing month on month. So this is this aspect. Then the other aspect, which is much more important to me, is accessibility. Because if you want to use, well, I'm full of respect to people that build Google Earth Engine.
Sorry,
right?
I unfortunately have to cut you here. We are in the rush of time. We cannot be late. Thank you very much. You can always follow up with the judges after the slot. Thank you very much. A round of applause.
I will explain you, 70 reasons why Orbify is better.
Yes, thank you very much. You are probably wondering who are the people in our judging panel, because because of the running around, I unfortunately forgot to introduce them, but they are none less important. We have with us today Justyna Pels from DAC Digital, Jakub Wizwary from AI Startup Incubator, Lukaia Ventures, Sergey Fedushenko from NVO Venture Capital, Michael Hyland from SpaceTech, and Thomas Tange from SpaceTech as well. Now that you know who are the judges, we are going to proceed to the second startup of today's slot, Pico Balloon. Do we have the presenter here? Yes, amazing. You are waiting until you come up on stage. The rules are pretty simple. 3 minutes of the... Come up here. Because I'm standing, 3 minutes of the pitch, 4 minutes for the questions. You have 7 minutes in total. You have the timer. So here's a clicker, microphone, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. You're looking at an invisible piece of critical infrastructure. Each day, National Weather Services launch 2,500 of these balloons to perform weather observations. Each time you open your phone to check the forecast, this forecast is also created from this data. Unfortunately, this system has significant gaps and limitations, often leading to inaccuracies in the forecast. Luckily, there is a simple yet effective solution, and it's right here in my pocket. So let's check it out. This is a Pico balloon. It's the tiniest weather probe on the market. It can perform observations of temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed, and direction, and it can transmit this data in real time all over the world. Thanks to a unique balloon construction and solar power, it can function indefinitely. It's 20 times lighter than the competition and 2 times cheaper. Thanks to all of this, it can transform the observational coverage from this to this. But our probes wouldn't make an observational system by themselves. That's why we developed a whole range of support software consisting of an API for data processing and visualization and a customer management panel. But we are also working on this autonomous launch station, which can perform the launches from remote areas for a very low cost. But where's the business? Our goal is to sell these probes, support software, and the launch stations directly to National Weather Services, which would perform the operation itself and do the forecasts. But we also plan to sell the collected data directly to data brokerages, commercial forecasters, but also to satellite companies, which can use this data for data assimilations or corrections of weather satellite data. There's an additional business vertical where hobbyists or amateur researchers can use these probes for, well, you can launch a balloon and see it fly around the world, which is really cool. But all of this is not just on paper or in my pocket. We have successfully launched 30 evaluation missions and are on track to perform another 100 in the next quarter. We are still pre-revenue, but we already have the first customers signing up. This started as a hobby project and has transformed into an international collaboration of over 25 students. Now we are transforming this student project into a commercial project. But we are not doing this alone. Thanks to these companies and their extensive background in hardware research and meteorology, we're able to bring the products to market and also to develop a manufacturing and sales pipeline. So what are you waiting for? Let's get in touch and build the future of meteorology together. Thanks.
Thank you for your pitch, Jacob. It's an impressive USP, 20 times lighter, 2 times cheaper. How will you be able to defend your tech stack? How do you make sure that you don't have competitors who will do the same?
We are not directly competing with the usual probes. The usual balloons go up, they burst, and they fall back down in around 2 hours. And the probes, mainly power systems, are designed to only sustain that. Our balloons fly to a certain altitude, and they stay there and perform horizontal observations. And thanks to solar power, they can function indefinitely. So it's kind of a different focus.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit more about your business model?
Yes, so it's a very niche field, I would say. There are only about 150 customers, more or less, because it's the National Weather Services, and there are 900 launch stations worldwide. But each one of them requires 2 probes per day, which is around 15,000 euros in revenue per month. For the data sales, it would be a bit different.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe to follow on to that question, do you have a split in mind on where your business focus will be, whether it's going to be B2B mostly or it's going to be mostly B2G?
Our goal is to target B2G mostly at this point, and but at this stage, our customers are mostly B2B and B2C.
Can you tell about your business development strategy in general? Because, you know, building technology is one thing, but, you know, selling is the other. So I'm just curious what to...
Of course, and also B2G is a very specific market. You need to have the connections and the pipeline. That's where one of the partners come in. It's a Slovak company. They don't have equity in our technology as of yet, but it's a Slovak company, but they export meteorological hardware and software to 60 countries. So that's where they would come in.
Nice.
Perfect.
Maybe last question. You said you have 25 students on the team. How do you work together? Like, I'm really curious.
We started during COVID, and this is not the only project we worked on. We worked for the Slovak government, for the US military. Now we're working for big tech corporations. We started during COVID, so we worked online, but now we also have an office and a lab in Bratislava. We're from Slovakia, mostly.
Amazing. You still have 1 minute left. Do you want to say anything? Something more about your company?
Ooh, yeah, I should. I didn't expect there to be.
I think you can tell us more about your team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for example, I've started with electronics when I was 9 and programming at 12. Now I'm 18. Most of our team is right now from 14 to 24 years old. So we have people who are focusing on hardware engineering and software, but we also have people who are purely focusing on marketing, content, business development.
Is your team product-based, or you're also doing consulting? Because you mentioned a few projects. It seems like you're like doing both.
We also function as a software house, more or less, and we have a company which does different startup which does hackathons and challenges between a company has a problem and they give it to students to solve.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next startup for now is the startup called Micropura. Is that? Yes, did I pronounce it correctly? Yes, come up on stage. Here's your clicker, microphone, 3 minutes of the pitch, 4 minutes of the questions, and you have everything there on the screen, the timer. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I am extremely grateful that I am able today to be here and present our startup. And let's start with this. It's Micropura. Currently, at International Space Station, there is no automatic microbial sensor which detects fungus and bacterial colonies. European Space Agency scientists pointed out that it's extremely time-consuming for astronauts, and it's very expensive. Roger that, we have heard that. We have created a solution which is time-saving, affordable, automatic, and gives real-time response. So, what is Micropura? This is a device that measures fungus and bacterial colonies and its existence, as well as if they are toxic or not. How does it work? We have this data, we measure this data about these colonies, and we send it to our servers and databases. There we are analyzing this by optical devices as well as machine learning. The last step is that we are sending this information to the customer in a very easy to read way. Also, this information can tell not only about this air quality, air purity, but also can tell what kind of colonies they are, if they are toxic or not, but also if there are some new ones that we don't know about them, we can also say that. Right now at ISS, they have been told that there are actually new species and they managed to do it in a very long way. We would be able to do it much faster. What are our target markets? So we would love to work with governmental and private space companies, especially with European Space Agency. We want to send our technology to International Space Station. As well, we can use it in isolated environment dedicated for space technologies development. But of course, as every good space technology development, we can use it here on Earth. And we can use it, as you can see, in public sites as hospitals, malls, laboratories, food processing industry, and also for individual customers. For example, when there are families with newborn, small child, and they want to know what kind of bacteria and fungus colonies they are, or for elderly people. What are our advantages? First of all, I think it's very important. The lab microbiological test takes up to 21 days, and results for our startup are ready up to 3 days. And also, another advantage is that our product is so much cheaper, because those are very high-tech laboratory machines that has a lot of elements, and our is a lot of easier to operate for also people who are not specialists in this. And who we are, because I didn't present it myself and our team at the beginning. My name is Marcelina Stasik, and we are a team of 20 people. We are working with Analog Astronaut Training Center, and we are from AGH, University of Science and Technology in Krakow, and we are working with former European Space Agency Advanced Concept Tech expert. Thank you so much.
So I have a question. I love astrobiological projects, but I haven't heard anything about your business model. So if you can tell me, please, something more about it. How you want to acquire first clients, because sending project into space is cool, but you want to earn money.
Okay, so right now we are in the state that we have created the concept of this. We have a test made on this biological filters, and we have created a first algorithm for our project. We have also, as as I said before, we have a connection with European Space Agency, a concept team, and we were talking with them about sending into the space. So right now we are searching for an investor, and one of the reasons is why we are here today. Of course, we are presenting ourselves in many different competitions, as well as we are telling about it in the media. I can say that 2 months ago, 2 people from our team has been awarded 25 under 25 Forbes list. In the first place, so actually we are trying to say about it to more, to further people and say how good it works and what we can do for not only for space but also for people here.
Okay, thank you. But I think that still you need to prepare some business model if you want to acquire investors, so it would be good to think about.
Mm-hmm. But do you mean like some, should I put in this presentation for maybe later some tables with data or plans? Because into the presentations I didn't put them because it's like 3 minutes. But
yeah, it would be good to have just an overview and then we can discuss it.
Okay, actually 3 minutes have gone out, 7 minutes in fact, so thank you very much.
Just one thing, we have this PDF in our laptop, so we can show it later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that was a very short slot. We are actually moving on to the next one. So thank you very much to all the startups presenting. Thank you very much to our judges. And I am giving the word to Anna